All
think
set?
we're good to go. Yep.
Okay, so this is the policy subcommittee meeting of Shawsheen Valley Tech. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law GLC 30A S18 and the governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of Shawsheen Valley Regional Vocational Technical School District Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen or watch the meeting may do so by accessing the meeting link above. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Shawsheen website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Okay. So let's take attendance. Well, Miss Muse is here. Miss Muse.
Hello.
Mr. Gallagher is here. I'm here. And also present is member Taryn Gillis and school teachers representative John Bagney and superintendent. So Brad Jackson. So
Move the minutes.
minutes times.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
No. Okay, all in favor? Ms. Muse?
Say yes, aye.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
got it.
I was down here and I. Okay, so that's passed.
Okay.
So let's go on to the policy. Are we going to look at the lost policy that is presented, the policy as presented?
Okay.
So included in your packet at your request is the wording from the MASC recommended policy IJNDD with the internet etiquette portion of the student handbook added. That was, as I understand it, the request for the first draft of this policy, and also present today at your request is John Bagney, president of the Shawsheen Teachers Association, because the policy subcommittee sought input from the STA in this matter. So that's the issue in front of the committee, and I'll leave it to you folks to conduct your discussion.
Okay, I have a question about number 4. What does that mean, examples of inappropriate behavior from other districts as behavior to avoid?
I don't know either. I assume it would be, again, this was written by others. So I assume it would be an opportunity for the presenter to make reference to other issues that had happened in other local districts in the past as an example of behavior that could be considered online behavior that could be considered problematic.
Why would we be judging somebody else's behavior?
I think it has to do with if it came up somewhere in the school committee, in Mass Association of School Committees, and something happened in a district and maybe they got a lawsuit. So it's like, so, but you're right. I don't understand why that's in there, but that's something that MASC put in.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, go
Can I
ahead.
just ask a question? I don't want to do this backwards, but do you think that we should ask Mr. Bagney for like his input now, and then we can kind of tear the policy apart after. Just maybe some areas that he may have some concern with, and then we can kind of go over those. I think that's great. I actually had that question too. But would it make more sense to ask him about their concerns first and then kind of work from there through the policy?
Doesn't matter to me. Yes.
That doesn't,
Doesn't matter.
okay.
Well,
All right,
actually,
If
can
you don't
I make,
mind.
I
can
would
I
guess,
actually make one change before we do this? Because this might be something John may have. That last paragraph about the superintendent or his designee.
yes, that was my
I
next
want to
comment.
strike that.
I
think
agree.
We need to strike that.
Thank you. That was what I was going to say next.
Okay.
So those are my 2 points.
And that would make, thank you for doing that. I do not want to be the doing internet searches all day, looking for appropriate behavior. Hi, Paul, how are you? Welcome.
Good, Brad. How
Hi,
are you? Sorry
Paul.
I'm late.
I don't understand what the process would be anyway
And
to
then
do that.
my suggestion would be that the second sentence would say, when inappropriate use of computers and websites is reported, comma, the school principal will, and superintendent will promptly bring that, I mean, we should probably conduct an investigation and bring the inappropriate use to the attention of the staff member, comma, conduct an investigation, comma, and may consider and apply. Does that make sense?
Even that sounds like somebody's investigating, like reported. If it's reported, that means somebody's doing something that's looking for it.
Well, it could be that somebody encountered something.
Right.
If it's a personal, and all I'm saying is I think it should be first person only. If it's an experience that somebody has, they report it. A third party getting involved is hearsay. And I think that gets mucky. That's a technical.
Yeah, but I think with that sentence, I mean, when inappropriate use is reported, so that would be like the first person or
Yeah,
whatever,
so,
you know?
yeah, like you said, Patty, when
Right.
reported inappropriate use of computers, websites.
If it's first person, fine. I just don't like hearsay getting involved and people reporting on people.
Yeah.
It should be a personal experience. And I don't know how you say that.
I think you
Yeah.
just pretty much put it the way the superintendent said, and then once he does a little investigation, he will know it's just hearsay. And that ends the
Right.
investigation.
Yeah.
you know?
All right, all right.
So the sentence could read, when inappropriate use of computers and websites
Right.
is reported, the school principal or superintendent will promptly bring that inappropriate use to the attention of the staff member, conduct an
Okay.
appropriate investigation, and may consider and apply disciplinary action up to and including termination.
All right,
Okay.
I can live with that. Everybody all right with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
Nancy, just to clarify, because I was late, is Mr. Bagney involved in this meeting?
Yes.
I am
he's
here, yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's here.
All right. Do you have any input on this?
I think we're just about to get to that.
We're just all ready to get to that, Paul.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, so if we're done, then Mr. Bagney goes on show.
Right.
Okay, so unlike you guys, I actually didn't like either page of this except for that one line where Brad was gonna go through all the internet searches. I kind of thought that was the best part of the whole thing. So I wanted to delete everything, strike everything except for the superintendent and designee will periodically conduct internet searches, because I thought that would be a great use of his time. So,
And then if
I'd
they
be
delete that
serious.
sentence for me, we'll have no policy whatsoever.
so
We'll have to clone him so he has enough time.
in all seriousness, I have to ask a couple of questions about this policy, because I listened to your meeting the other day and it seemed that the reason why this policy is being considered is that you had some questionable, inappropriate use on some websites or some media, social media. But this whole setup here doesn't really address those issues. It seems to be more or less addressing issues with inappropriate use of computers with students is what this whole policy seems to be gauging towards. And I don't think we have that problem here. I don't think that's even an issue that we've ever had here. I mean, I try to conduct myself, and I know all the teachers that I work with, with very strong professional behavior. That's throughout our contract, throughout our handbook. There's numerous places where it says that we shall act professionally. And when we don't act professionally, there is recourse for that. I think a lot of the stuff that's being written in here is very specific to certain things. And I think it's going to be, there's a lot of spots where it may be violating people's rights as individuals. I don't think the school wants to go down the road. I don't want to go down that road at all. Personally, I think a lot of this should be education. I think it should be yearly education. The opening days of school, we always go over a lot of different topics. I think this is one of the topics that should be in the forefront every year, especially this year. It would have been a really good thing because we were all online. But on any other given year, online media is used daily by most of the staff and most of the students in here. To put a lot of the restrictions that are listed in here, I think will take away from the educational benefits that we have with a lot of these things that teachers, coaches, mentors of kids do every single day. And I think a lot of this stuff is going to actually detrimentally affect that. And I think the way this is written, it's very harsh on what it's talking about. And we don't have that here. That has not been the problem here. From what I understand, I think it was most of this came from what it sounded like a comment from a parent about a post on a non-Shawsheen media. It was on a Facebook post, I believe. And it was someone made a comment on there that may or may not be liked by a parent. All of stuff on this set of papers that I have in front of me does not really address those issues at all. I can't ask all the teachers to make all their accounts private. That's unreasonable. I don't have that control. I don't think anybody does. What they do on their private time, as long as it doesn't affect the learning of students, I don't think it's really anybody's business, short of them acting unprofessionally and doing, conduct unbecoming, which is already, again, in their handbook, in their contract, all places where they can be disciplined. I think this adds a lot of boundaries that needs a lot more clarification than this page and a half. Okay, I'll start with that. I can go down each individual number and we can talk about them individually if you'd like. I
think that's my concern, John, and this is why I asked that you be brought into this, because I think it's just kind of clarification of when does a teacher get to be a parent? I mean, when does a superintendent, stop being a superintendent? I mean, I know we're all professional in, our own areas, but, if I walk into, a special education path meeting and I'm, an advocate, I'm not going to sit there and advocate. I'm there for my kid. And when does that stop? So I guess that's a discussion we have to have too. Is this going to be like on, during school time, after school hours? I mean, we do have policies in place about bullying after school hours and stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if with teachers this follows those same guidelines or not, but I think that's a discussion that needs to be had too.
Yeah, I agree with you. So that's my whole thing. I know that I have a lot of teachers that are also parents in this school. So they may be part of a separate group outside of school that parents discuss, I don't know, prom activities or the all-night graduation party. I mean, anything that, could be relating to students all the time. I'm the traveling Rams advisor. I talk to parents all the time about traveling to, different countries. So there's different roles that people have here. And I want to make sure that we don't limit all of that good stuff that we have from all of these things by being a little nervous about a comment that may have come through that now we're going to put all these restrictions on everybody. Because I think reading all of these from 1A through F, those make me a little nervous, some of those there, because I see now I could not be here someday. Brad might not be here someday. This whole school committee could be changed. We may agree to something today where other people will look at it and read it differently. And when I see things on here about, exhibiting the use of alcohol, that makes me a little nervous because, I mean, teachers that work here are all of legal age. They may or may not drink alcohol. It is their right to do so. It is not a violation of anything. And a line in here where it says inappropriateness of posting items exhibiting or advocating use of drugs and alcohol.
Mhm.
How do we define inappropriateness of that?
That's
Whose
like somebody
definition?
going on to my Facebook page and seeing me holding a beer and saying it was inappropriate. I mean,
Exactly. So that's why I don't want to get into, I think I don't want to hold it. Taryn has her hand up, so I don't know who wants to do
Take
what.
that.
No, go ahead, Taryn. You wanted to bring something up?
All I wanted to point out is I think part of what happened was something occurred that people felt was inappropriate involving a teacher.
Mhm.
It was handled. It was handled by you. It was handled by Dr. Jackson. It was handled by Ms. Cook. I don't know who. It's none of my business, even as a school committee member, and it's certainly none of my business as a parent.
Mhm.
But because how it was handled is not publicized,
Yeah.
I think sometimes there's concern. I know I saw something that there was concern about inequality, that the students are punished one way and the teachers are punished another, and that it should be fair. And I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm saying that the teacher may be punished is the wrong word, but I'll use it, punished equally, but that's none of our business. And we're not going to know that. And that's, I think, part of the problem is that for the students, it clearly says, if you bully another student, this is what the punishment is going to be. If a staff member bullies, that is inappropriate. That is unacceptable. That is going to be handled. But it's not them to be turned around. It's like, well, John Bagney bullied Taryn Gillis and this was the result.
Right.
It's just going to be handled. And I think that's part of people want to know everything. And that's just not something they get to know.
I'll be honest with you, Taryn, I have no idea what's going on. I was going to ask for clarification for the last meeting because I think that would probably help me a little bit more understand why we're doing all this. But honestly, I don't think we should be directing anyone's pages at all unless it was a Shawsheen page that somebody, came out on and was inappropriate to another parent. But if somebody's doing like a friends of page, that's not under our control. I mean, when you had the Shawsheen Tech Friends parents page, I got on there as a parent. Okay. At some point I'm a parent, so I want to be involved with my children's, education and what's going on. But I don't think that we should be pulling stuff off of that page if it's an open page that somebody started and say, this is inappropriate. At some point, I'm a parent, that person who's a teacher is a parent. And if it was an official page that we had and that was inappropriate, then I don't think we should be giving anybody a punishment off of a page that's not a Shawsheen owned page. That's just my opinion.
Clarification for somebody who doesn't know what you're talking about. You're talking about things that are not official Shawsheen letterhead. You're talking about if I contact you, Lisa,
Yep.
that kind of conversation?
Yeah. So if I
Or
have,
John?
so for example, if say you have like a soccer club, okay, Shawsheen Tech, soccer moms or whatever, and there was some inappropriateness going on there between maybe a teacher or a student or a parent, I could see some, disciplinary actions being taken place. But if me as a parent decide, hey, it's just like people when they're taking our Rams logo and using it to make like signs and stickers and stuff without our authorization. I mean, there's nothing you can really do about that. But if you're doing like a parents page that I go on there tomorrow after I'm say I'm not a school committee member, and I go on and say, friends of the Shawsheen Tech, whatever. That's my page. Shawsheen has no control over that page. And I don't think we should be punishing anybody over that page unless it was on like a soccer page or a lacrosse page or a football page, like one of the pages that we own, because this is really talking about like coaches and teachers, on our system, our website or whatever. And I think that this should be directed that way and not something that's outside of our reach. I don't know what happened. I'm assuming it's on that Friends of page that turned into a general page, but we don't have any control over that, Nancy. So I don't think that we should be putting, punishments on anybody. To be honest, I know maybe whatever was said was inappropriate, but that possibly could be taken offline with that parent and that person. But I think teachers need to be teachers at some point and need to be parents. And same thing with, like school committee members, I'm going to be a school committee member when I have to be. And yeah, I do represent the school, but I also have to be a parent at some point too. So I don't think we should be directing, we should be handling anything unless it's an official Shawsheen Tech page. And so I think that's what some of John's saying is correct. We really need to make sure we go through this policy because it is very broad.
Well, if that's the case, then can we just make a more general statement saying regarding any Shawsheen affiliated communication?
The school.
and
committee, we are-
limit it to that, because otherwise, from what I understand, you're policing personal things. And I don't understand how we can do that.
Can't.
We already
You can't.
have an acceptable use policy that
Mhm.
staff must follow for using district-owned equipment and software. And
Was this done on district-owned equipment or software when these comments are made?
I don't know what comments the people.
I have no
Yeah,
idea why we're
yeah.
even, I understand why we're looking at this, but I don't understand like,
So I'm just saying, in general, if someone uses their email, their Shawsheen email,
Mhm.
Which is district-owned, bjackson@shawtech.org is district-owned. And if I use that email to send an email to a parent and behave unprofessionally, then that is me, first of all, me acting in my official capacity, as you would all agree, I assume, because it's on shawsheentech.org email. And it's me acting unprofessionally if assuming I said something inappropriate in the email. That is covered by the acceptable use policy. The challenge is, and this is not, the challenge is, let me just leave it at that. So there is an acceptable use policy that staff, myself and John, and anyone who uses Shawsheen Tech equipment or software has to follow.
Well, that would apply to school committee members as well, who are using the Shaw Tech email.
That's correct.
And or using their district provided devices.
Okay, so if I send you a message, Brad, on my personal email to your personal email, I can say what I want, but if I use the Shawsheen email, it is not appropriate.
Well,
It depends what you
I
do.
don't think that's right either, Nancy.
it's not true.
Well, that's
Yeah,
what
because
I'm
it's official
saying.
school
That's what I'm
business.
saying. It's not
Yeah.
just, there's a certain inference that I don't know, how do you
But if you,
define it?
I guess I don't know what happened, but if you have a teacher like going out on social media, and which I guess I'm assuming we're talking about social media, and it says, listen, your kid, failed miserably on a test, and, obviously you didn't study well with them or made them study. I mean, that's one thing. If they do it on their own personal computer or their phone, there's got to, I don't know. We have to really take a look at this, because I think it's a very gray area.
It sounds very undefined to me. That's open to interpretation. I'm not clear on it. But then again, like I say, I'm not a social media person, so.
I
Yeah.
have,
Go ahead.
I have a question to Brad. Now, I really don't remember. Do we have anything in our policy book about the staff and social media, or?
We have an acceptable use policy.
And that just, okay.
But
So,
we don't have it as it relates specifically to social media that I'm aware of.
okay.
So
So
Patty,
what
what I
would be
can
the-
tell you,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
so
right, go
Patty,
ahead.
what I can tell you, Patty, is that throughout the handbook,
Yeah.
it talks about teachers acting professionally at all times.
Right.
So teachers know when they become a teacher that they are a public servant and that they are around and they are being looked at by everybody. And they know that. And all throughout the handbook, it says, be very cautious whenever you're sending even regular emails to parents about how their child is doing. You have to be cautious about what you say. And that goes with any kind of media that we have. If I have a parental conference in person, you have to be careful what you say. You have to be respectful and professional at all times. You are a teacher. It's a professional field. So that being said, a lot of this stuff is things that are covered literally, 100 times in that handbook. That handbook covers professional responsibilities all over the place. Teachers know what they can and cannot do. I'm not going to say teachers don't make mistakes. Obviously they do.
Right.
But I don't think we have an egregious situation that warrants making a new policy with all types of discipline attached to it, without having any parameters set. I mean, the first question I had for you guys today was, why are we here? What has brought this to the attention? And why do we think we need this? Those are the two things that come up. What is not covered already?
Okay.
What can't the school committee do already to a teacher that acts inappropriately in any media that needs to be covered here? Because I think if a teacher acts inappropriately, you are already covered. If you have evidence of it, you can already do something to that teacher if you have to, if they're inappropriate. So I don't understand what all of it's for, because I think it's already covered. I think this policy is for something that somebody doesn't have all this already. We have the binder of our staff handbook is this thick. I mean, inside there, it tells you everything. And it holds you to a lot of grounds that I think are already covered with most of the things that are listed on this list. It's kind of redundant.
All right, but the staff handbook really isn't a public document. I mean, that people would see. So if we had, because I was asked specifically about what kind of policies do we have, and I had a complaint about whatever was going on social media.
Mhm.
What if we do just something simple, like the first paragraph, just annually remind staff members.
Mhm.
And we can take off, well, I guess if you want, we can take off. I don't really see anything wrong with number 1, but you think it's too specific?
I don't even think we should need to go through even all that, Patty. I think we should just make it a paragraph and just say.
Do that paragraph and the
And the
internet
last-
etiquette. See, this is the other thing, because parents do not see, your book. Because
So
they
could
said,
you refer
it
to
was
it,
brought
Patty,
to
though?
me that, students have it specifically said in the student handbook, how they're supposed to act.
Mhm.
And and they said, well, we don't see anything about how teachers have to act.
Well, I don't see there any reason why, or if it's not, why the staff handbook is not an online document.
Okay.
It definitely can be I don't think, Brad, unless there's a reason you see that can't be a public document, why wouldn't that be on our website already? Our contract is a public document that anybody can
Right.
see.
Mhm.
So I don't have a problem with.
All right, so if we put that on, Brad, on our website, and then if anybody asks me any questions, I'll say, just go to that.
So can we, could we even put just like a paragraph together, Patty, and then just say refer to
Right.
student handbook, such and such section, and then this is covered in the employee handbook under blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, we could do that.
Two quick questions. Maybe, no, not two, more than one. Maybe when we do that, we can sort of clarify that it's employee, it's not just teacher.
Right.
And that, to be blunt, school committees included under that, because I think part of what people wonder is if I decide to bash Brad on social media, and I use this example because I never would, are there, am I held to the same standards? As a school committee member, am I held to the same standards that the staff are, and are the staff standards
No,
comparable to?
Hey, Taryn,
Not really,
let me
but-
ask you a question. Are we getting a stipend or any benefits from the school department? I mean, from our
No.
respective towns? No, I'm not an employee. I'm here to represent my town, but I'm not.
We're
getting any benefits from it.
volunteers. We're volunteers if you want.
That's a good
Volunteers.
I didn't think of that, but then that.
We're
needs to
public
be said.
officials.
That
So
needs
we
to be
are
said.
held to a standard.
That we, just something about school committee members, are unpaid public officials or whatever, the assumption is that they will hold themselves to the same standards or something.
Well, that's why people report you to the ethics committee.
I
That's why
think
they
you're
have that
getting
route.
into the weeds. I really think we ought to take a step back and just look at the big picture here. I'm afraid when we start looking at the numbers 1 to 6, I mean, that's what is most uncomfortable. If you
Right,
want to
so-
just skip 1 to 6 and use everything else, and I can live with that.
Yeah, like I said, Nancy,
Can
you
I-
can just make a paragraph of the first paragraph, like try to tweak the first paragraph, tweak the last paragraph, and then
And-
just under it, just refer to, file such and such in the teacher's handbook,
I
as
don't
well
even know
as
if
what we have in the student handbook.
Yeah.
I think that the civil discourse is always a good reminder. Instead of calling it internet etiquette,
Etiquette.
it's civil discourse. It's just being respectful, period, like we do at town meeting. I think it's gotten very much tangled up in words, and every time you do that, it can be misinterpreted.
But how does that I want to kind of back up a little bit, because me as a parent or John is a teacher, right? If we're out in a website, say we're on a political website, or we're just kind of like, on some piece of social media, and some parent kind of comes across and says, well, I don't agree with that. I mean, do they have the right to report me, or, as a parent, or John? I mean, I don't know. I
Right.
think that we
So,
need to really narrow
Lisa?
this down to the school committee. I mean, school resources, not just whatever's out there.
I had that, Lisa, also, and that was actually one of my, I have a list of 15 examples that I'd want, before we write anything, I'd want clarification on, and one of them was political, one was religious. Okay, so I have a whole list of them here about things that I need a lot of clarification. So I agree. Personally, I don't think that, again, nobody in the public has any right to know what any teacher has for discipline. Okay, that is a private matter. So to me, we're allowing outside entities to control things that are not supposed to be controlled. So you're not going to know when I get in trouble. Okay, you're not going to know what happens to me. The superintendent, the principal, the union president may know. That's about it. That's how it's supposed to be. So to be listing, I know people want to know what's happening, but I mean, I don't know what happens to kids in here when they get in trouble. They don't tell me. If I send a kid to the dean handles that job. It's none of my business what happens with the dean's office. So there's just situations. My job is an electrical teacher. I handle the electrical shop. Whatever happens in my shop, I deal with. When it leaves my hands, it goes to the next level. When a teacher does something wrong, or a staff member does something wrong, there's a method of managing that situation, and it's not public. It's not a public process. I know we all want to have this be a public process, but I think we're jumping the gun on from what I understand, it was a like. Someone liked a comment that somebody else made. We're going really far and deep on something that it was an opinion that someone had that they didn't like. And the person that saw it didn't like the opinion that the person had that they didn't like. So we're making a big deal out of something that is maybe the moderator of that page should be handling. If they don't want to have those people on there, they can delete them. I mean, if you have your own page.
Is that moderator a part of our staff?
I have no idea. It's your, no, I'm saying that, I'm saying for the Shawsheen page.
Yeah, is
Shawsheen
that
page.
on an official Shawsheen page, or just?
No, like the one that was this Shawsheen parent one. I think that's where a lot of this is coming from originally. And that was my other question. What is the complaint? Because I'd like to know what I'm trying to deal with. I've only heard drabs of it. And it sounds like, and I've had my staff scour the page to see where they made a mistake. And the only thing they can find is a check of a like of a comment that someone else made.
Well, the other thing too is, I think if we're talking about the same page, whoever the moderator is tends to take things, put things up, take things down. So again, we're not in control of that.
Again, we don't have control of that. That's the tough part about this. I don't even want to give this any credence, because it's something that has nothing to do with the school. The school doesn't control it. It's a private page. It's on Facebook. It's not controlled by Shawsheen Tech. I believe anything controlled by Shawsheen Tech, they have the right to do whatever they want with it. If Brad makes a Shawsheen page, he can control who can be on it and what we can say, because we're teachers, and then we give up that right. That First Amendment right we give up as teachers. When we're in the position of a teacher in a classroom, we do not have that right anymore. Okay, we have to follow what the school directs us to do.
All right, to end this.
Yep.
I would say all we do is, for this, we would put the first, two sentences of this policy, and then the last sentence about if anything's reported. And that's all we put in the policy book.
Yeah,
Okay, so
I'm not
you
sure
want
why
to
we have to
reference.
do anything. Why are we doing anything on this at all?
It's so generic. I don't see why that has no meaning.
But it does have a meaning. It tells people, yes, we remind staff members to do this. And yes, if it's reported, this is what will happen.
It's already there, though. We have policies in place. Why are we making a policy?
No, we don't have a policy in place for this.
So Paul, you just broke up a little bit. You're kind of goggled for a second.
Well, for the teachers, Sean, can you hear me okay? Yeah. So my point is, we already have policies in place to tell the teachers how they're supposed to, act. Why are we adding another policy on top of a policy? It doesn't make sense to me.
Because we don't really have, they have something in their handbook,
Okay. Well, they
right?
The
know
handbook
about it.
is, but the handbook is enforceable. So you guys
the
enforce the
handbook-
I
handbook.
understand it's enforceable.
Yeah.
But we make policy. We didn't make that, well, we approved the handbook. So.
Yeah, of course we do, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
you
did.
Excuse me, where is this policy going to be written if
It
it's
goes
not,
into the policy handbook that is on our website.
so it's only going into a policy handbook for the school,
Yeah.
right?
It would
Okay,
also be added to the employee handbook.
well, if,
Okay.
from, according to John, it's already in there.
They're enforceable. Yeah.
Remember, teachers have to act professionally. You don't have to keep saying it 100 different ways.
All right,
We all
so-
know what a
Well,
professional
maybe you do.
behavior is.
Well,
Maybe you
I-
need to say
you know,
what
Okay.
professional means.
If I could offer a bit of a contrary position here, there is, I think it is important. I think the first paragraph has value. I think the first paragraph has value because it reminds all of us as educators that our social media, whether it's public or private, can impact our ability as role models. It can impact our ability to act as positive role models in the Shawsheen community. So, for example, if 5 years ago, somebody had a picture of themselves consuming marijuana, when consuming marijuana is illegal, but it's on their private page, and students got a hold of that picture, that could significantly undermine that teacher's credibility in the educational community and impact their ability to be effective educators, whether they're teachers, superintendents, secretaries, et cetera. So there is, I think there is an important message that all employers want to send to all employees, and that is be careful on social media.
We'll make that statement. That's it.
I
think
agree with that,
that's what
Nancy.
I think that's what the first two sentences say.
Right.
Annually remind staff members and orient new staff members concerning the importance of maintaining proper decorum in the online digital world as well as in person. Employees must conduct themselves in ways that do not distract from or disrupt the educational process. Period.
I have no problem with that.
That to me is,
That's what I said.
Skip the
I
rest
think
of it.
that's a critical reminder for us as role models, educators, and who are serving as role models in our community, to remind our staff of that. And I think it makes sense for the school committee in a policy statement to state that. Educators are role models. I think school committee members are role models, but I don't police the school committee. You're independent elected officials who as a board are responsible for policing yourselves. But
We're responsible to our towns. They don't like us.
and you're responsible to your voters.
Yes.
And then if you want to add that last sentence that we had edited, when inappropriate use of computers or websites is reported, the principal or superintendent will promptly bring that inappropriate use to the attention of the staff member, conduct an appropriate intervention and investigation, and may consider and apply disciplinary action. Actually, we probably should delete up to and including termination to soften the language a little bit, I would recommend. And to me, that is a general statement of policy. The other stuff is.
So, Brad, can I just ask you a question? The computers and websites, though, when inappropriate use of computers and websites, we're referring to.
Yeah, maybe you should say social media and, we can, that's
Because if I'm home and I'm having a glass of wine, I decide to go off and somebody, I'm like, if I'm on my own computer, I don't know.
Well, but, so let me turn the example to me. I can't have a glass of wine and go on the Shawsheen parent website and and behave inappropriately. I can't do that.
A Shawsheen
Never.
website though,
No,
right?
but even the Shawsheen Tech Parents website, because
Okay,
I
so
can,
then
never-
I have a question now.
I can never, ever, ever not be the superintendent of schools.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I agree with that. Do you need a policy for that, though?
No, you guys can
a
fire
given.
my fanny anytime you want.
no, but if
Correct.
you,
Exactly. So, right.
so let me, no, I want to back up a minute because I do have an example.
And be careful, because I'm starting to, never mind.
No, but I'm going to give you a good
Take me
example.
with you,
all right?
Paul.
So I'm going to give you a
Lisa.
good example. All right. Because I was approached about this months and months ago. And I think I might have talked to you about this. So at one point, it might have been on Twitter. It might have been on just a Shawsheen Tech page, or it might have been even a Wilmington page. You had promoted like, hey, I can't wait till this brewery comes into town, or microbrew or something. And I think it might have been under either an old superintendent's email or something. But I mean, at that point too, it's like, we could turn around and say, that's inappropriate. I mean, and I don't know. Sometimes I just think there's a point where, yes, you are a superintendent and you are a teacher, but at what point do you get to be a human being? And so if I'm on in the weekends, I mean, I'm not teaching, I'm not doing anything, but I mean, I should be able to go onto a website and have an opinion about a microbrewery coming into Wilmington or the area and not be judged by that. But sometimes I think we really have to take a look at, like, I don't know, I just have a hard time as a parent, and maybe it's because my mother was a union steward and I got all this in my head, but like, I just have a hard time of like, when do you get to be a superintendent? And when do you get to be a teacher? And when do you get to be a parent? So, I mean, I don't know. I agree with you, but I kind of disagree. So I think when we're looking at the inappropriate use of computer and websites,
Can
I
we
don't know.
just leave it the way we have it with that, the way we just presented it, and revisit it and see if there's a reason to be more specific? I mean, I from what I hear, it's the specificity of it that everybody's upset with.
Yeah, and I think Paul's right. I mean, I don't even know why we even need another, as long as we're publicizing the teacher's handbook and it's enforceable, like John's saying, I think we're going to be fine. That's just my opinion, but.
Well, and again, I'm not trying to stir up trouble here, but the teacher's handbook there's an employee's, it's not a teacher's handbook, it's an employee's handbook.
Employee's handbook, yeah.
We have more than just teachers as employees. Respectfully, Mr. Bagney, of course.
So can I just make one comment before you guys close out? So if you're gonna write, sometimes I have no problem with the first paragraph. I think it's a very good paragraph. I think it brings some awareness to things. I think when you add in the discipline portion after it, it makes that first part, which is a very good comment, it brings it in negative context. And I don't think that's the intention of what we want to do. I think we want to educate people. We want to make sure that they're aware of it. And they already know if they do something wrong, that they can be subject to discipline. That's already everywhere. So there's no reason to take a good paragraph and make it something that sounds negative. Because it sounds like, well, we never had it before. Now we add in this one thing and now we're adding discipline to it. The discipline's always been there. Discipline never goes away. Like Brad just said, when you are a teacher always, and then you're a role model. So when you don't act like that and you do something inappropriate and it's wrong and it's against the law or whatever, or you harm somebody, then you can be reprimanded for that. And that's always been there. So I don't see, people know that as a teacher. You look through all the chapter 70, all the chapter 74, this stuff through all of the teaching stuff that you can bury people on. I mean, they have to act like professionals at all times. They are different. They're not regular people. They are public servants and they are professionals and they're teachers. So those people act a certain way and they have to act a certain way and they know that. So I think adding the discipline, just my 2 cents, adding the discipline part is redundant and it takes away from the positive tone of the beginning of that paragraph and brings it into a negative tone is how I see. People are going to look at that and be now wondering what's inappropriate, what's wrong, what's different than what we normally have. Why is this written in here when we already know throughout our contract and handbook that there's discipline attached to any inappropriate behavior? So that's just my 2 cents on it. I just want to try to keep it a positive tone instead of, because we're going to be giving people this on the first day of school. New teachers are going to walk in, we're going to read this off to them, talk about social media that they've been doing all the time. And I'm going to tell them, yeah, but by the way, you can be fired for this. So I just think it's one of those comments that doesn't have to be said because it's already well known. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. That's just my opinion on it.
I agree with that, Johnny.
Me too.
I do.
All right, I would
I'll
make a
make a motion.
motion.
I'll make a motion to table it.
Oh,
Second.
Oh, okay, we
Motion.
have to vote on that.
yes, the motion for table has to be voted. first.
Okay, so Mr. Gaddick,
Yes.
It would have to be seconded first, doesn't it?
It was.
Lisa did.
All right, I didn't hear it.
Lisa,
Yes.
Patty,
No.
and I abstain.
Oh, gosh.
Sorry, I just don't have a good feel for
All
this.
right. You're
I
entitled
think
to
All
it's
right.
just, I would like to stay simple. And, but I'm, so what do we have? We have two to table.
Two in
Right.
favor, one opposed, one
against,
abstention.
one
The
abstain.
motion to table passes.
Yes, motion to table passes.
So
All right,
we'll-
that does not mean we can always revisit this. I was
Yes.
going to say, there's no
Yes.
reason why we can't keep the little paragraph in the beginning in mind and revisit it, if in fact something happens again that invites this kind of discussion. And I think we should just hold that out as a possibility.
Okay,
We always have that possibility. It's always there.
Well, yeah, but in this case, okay, so,
I make a
Anybody-
motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
okay, all in favor, oh,
Roll call.
Lisa,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
I vote yes. Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much,
everybody.
everybody.
Thanks,
Have a good
Bye-bye.
night.
Done.
Bye.
Thank you.